Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Force. I am David Cottingham here giving you the weekly dose of Inside the Force on my own again this week. Fortunately, all of my other co-hosts are doing things, so no big deal. I'm going to still keep pushing these things out. Got a lot to go over. This episode, if you've seen on the title, has been somewhat of a tradition for me and Casey. Usually each year we look back at the year prior, in this case 2021, to kind of go over the best things that we enjoyed from Star Wars and Lucasfilm over the course of the year. So that's kind of what I'm going to mainly talk about towards the end of the episode. The things that I consider the best Star Wars for me. Obviously maybe different for you, but a lot of good things happened in 2021, a lot of great things, despite it being we're still wrapped in this COVID time, but we did get a lot of stuff, and I want to talk about a lot of that. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for being a part of the show. Comments and emails and all that stuff. Of course, all of our content is on YouTube and on all the podcast feeds that you can subscribe to out there. We did announce last week, Corey and I, that we are going to be doing a dark side type show coming up here very, very soon. We actually were going to do it a little sooner, but unfortunately, Corey got COVID, so he's home recovering this week. But also, just some inside baseball. I've got this really, really great friend of mine and coworker that I've known for, 20 plus years of my life, David Silvernail, who's a fantastic 3D animator. And he is the one that has helped me create a lot of my 3D animations, particularly the one that you see in the opening video. If you're watching this on YouTube, the opening video is a Jedi holocron that rises and opens. He helped. I kind of gave him the concept. He developed the 3D animation, and it's fantastic. That's the only thing I've used ever since we started this YouTube channel. And the holocron logo actually wasn't something that we had created from the very beginning. I remember when me and Casey just started this thing, Inside the Force was just, text. And ultimately we decided, I decided I wanted a symbol, a logo to represent the show. And so we did say from the very beginning that, we tap into hundreds of holocrons to give you the knowledge and insight of all things Star Wars. So it just made sense that it'd be a holocron and it'd be an opened holocron. So that's the logo that we have right now. So anyway, I talked to Dave Silvernail, and he's helping me create the same opening for the Dark Side show. We're calling it Dark Knowledge. A Sith holocron that at the beginning of the show. So he made it, and I was like, God, this is awesome. It's perfect. Me and Corey talking, we're going to do a show here soon, but we might have to delay it just a tad, to be honest, because when I really looked at the animation, I think I gave him the wrong direction a little bit. The holocron, which is a Sith holocron, which is actually sitting back there on my shelf right there, if you could see it. It's a pyramid, right? But it's only a 3-sided pyramid, and he had created a 4-sided pyramid. So after I looked at it, and it kind of looked weird to me, and I was like, yeah, that's not right. It's a 3-sided, not a 4-sided. So he is redoing that for me. Thanks, Dave. That's my fault. And I try to be as consistent as possible here. So we'll get that done, and then we'll get our first show out soon. Probably, I would say it'd take him another week or so, and then we'll get something out. But anyway, no rush because we do get a lot to dive into on our other shows, and we're got a lot of things lined up for those. So you'll see a lot more of those consistently here coming forward. But on this show, it's all about Star Wars and the week that was. Now, I didn't do a show last week. Had to go out of town. But so I'm talking this week. We're going to talk, obviously, chapters 3 and 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. But before that, a couple things on the news front. Just today, pretty cool. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga finally released a trailer and the release date, which is going to be April 5th of 2022. Now, I'm a big fan of the Lego games. I've played a lot of them, from Indiana Jones to Jurassic Park to Star Wars, Clone Wars, a lot of them. And so I'm really, really excited about this. Been excited for this. I think this was supposed to come out spring of last year, and then they pushed it to the holiday season, and then it got delayed till now. So yeah, April 5th. Cool long trailer. I think not just a trailer, but it explains a lot of the gameplay. If you go look at it on StarWars.com, and I think this is why the game, to be honest, I think this is why the game actually got delayed. It seems like this Lego game has really stepped up what you can do with your characters. You know, I haven't played a Lego, I guess I haven't played a Star Wars Lego game in a while, so maybe they've been like this, but I feel like there's a ton more abilities and probably side mission. It looks like there's a lot of side missions you can do. So a lot of exploring. I mean, this is all 9 films, so there's a lot to do, a lot to see. So I think they paused it and added to it, is what I'm assuming happened. But it's the only way I can think about why it got delayed. So, but anyway, very exciting. I'm excited about that. Playing all 9 films is going to be pretty cool. And it sounds like it's going to be a really long game. So get it in April, probably play it a lot until the next game comes out, which I don't know what that's going to be yet, but apparently there's a lot of them in the works with, of course, Lucasfilm games being developed and created last year. Rumor floating around that there's a possible Bo-Katan Disney Plus series coming. I don't know. You know, I guess it makes sense. I don't know if it's how true you can take that. Obviously, it's a rumor, so probably don't have to, but it would make sense, you know, because, you know, Cyber Ren and I have talked about this a lot on the Mandalorian podcast. You know, where does Mandalorian season 3 go? Because it could be that he's going to help Bo-Katan, you know, reestablish and take over Mandalore. And I know she wanted to kind of use the Darksaber to rule Mandalore and bring the Mandalorians back together. But where does Mando fit in that? You know, that was really kind of my question, was how does he fit in all that? Because it doesn't seem like that's something he would do, in my opinion. But it's certainly what Bo-Katan would do. So I can see a series where that's her story, and she goes off and does that, and we still go on a different adventure with Din. So that's why I'm feel like it's probably a good bet. The place that I read this was the same group. Apparently, a couple weeks ago, dropped a rumor that Kira is also getting her own show. Kira from Solo, the movie Solo, played by Emilia Clarke. That, to me, would actually make more sense than the Bo-Katan series, just because Kira and Crimson Dawn has been popping up a lot lately in the comics. And it's been reestablished in the comics that, Crimson Dawn has survived the Galactic Civil War during the original trilogy time, because we don't hear about it around then, really. But they have reemerged during the War of the Bounty Hunters comic series, which happens right after Empire Strikes Back. We just did a Beyond the Saga on that book, those 5 issues. Hannah and I reviewed that, so go check that out. Some of you have been asking for that. Fantastic comic series written by the great Charles Soule. Kira's back. Crimson Dawn is back. There's actually a comic series called Crimson Reign right now. That's the second of the trilogy that he's writing. So there's a lot of story there with her, and it would completely make sense what happened after she left Han and Chewie there on Savareen when after she killed Dryden and took his yacht. I mean, well, how, what's that conversation she has with Maul and Dathomir? When does Maul, because what we don't know is between then and when we see Maul in Rebels, what happened there? Because obviously he goes and searches for the Sith holocron and leaves Crimson Dawn, I guess. Maybe that's when it went dormant for a while and she eventually reemerges as the leader of it. It's all interesting questions. I think that a lot of people would love to see, a lot of fans would love to see. I'd love to see that. So, yeah, I think I would be more interested in that Kira series than a Bo-Katan series, to be honest. I think Bo-Katan could still be part of the Mandalorian if she is truly kind of a secondary character, but we'll see, because Katie Sackhoff's pretty awesome, and she's definitely pretty awesome in that role. So we'll see. Anyway, great speculations there, that you can make. Apparently there was an ad in a magazine or something pushing the Bad Batch season 2, saying that it's arriving this spring. No formal release date, but spring means, spring starts in March. So you got March, April, end of March, April, May, and June. So the end of June is the start of summer. So you got April, May. So I'm guessing, what I said from the beginning, I think a few months ago, I think Bad Batch is going to premiere again on May the 4th, like it did last year. May the 4th is on a Wednesday this year, actually. So it makes perfect sense to put it out May the 4th. I hope that's not the next series after Book of Boba Fett, because there's a lot of time there. So hopefully we get the Obi-Wan series between then. But that's probably just me being ambitious, because I don't know if they're far along on post on there. They should be, because it's not as many episodes. So we'll see. I think that would be the way to do it, because Bad Batch starting May the 4th would push that all the way to August or so, which means it was rumored to be when Andor is supposed to start. So Andor would start right after that. And that would go all the way up until probably December or so, when Mandalorian season 3 would start. So, to avoid that overlap, I think you'd have to put Obi-Wan out between the end of Book of Boba Fett, which is mid-February, to May the 4th. So put it out in April, advertise it in March, put it out in April. It's kind of what I'm thinking. So anyway, excited about Bad Batch season 2. Love that series. Okay. So Book of Boba Fett. I know some of you have actually commented on YouTube and sent in some feedback to the show on the Mandalore podcast show, saying kind of the same things I've been saying on there, which is Chapter 3 was not very good in my book. There were definitely good moments. I think that the best moment was the flashback where, Boba Fett comes up on the Tusken camp that has been destroyed, and apparently where all the Tuskens got killed. So that was the best part for me. I thought that was pretty emotional. I think that hit home with him. I could see it in his face that it hit home with Boba. But other than that, I felt like it took a small step forward as far as the main timeline story goes. He meets this street gang, these half human, half droids now. I thought that was a okay concept to throw in there. I didn't agree with the bikes and the speeder bikes and the chase that happened with the major domo. I just I don't know. This really took me out, to be honest. I didn't think it was shot well. I didn't think it was produced well. I think the speeders weren't that I don't know. It just didn't feel right for some reason. And I know a lot of people have said that online. A lot of people have liked it, and that's great. I mean, definitely welcome to like that chase scene, but it just didn't feel like it to me. Didn't seem fast enough. Seemed like these guys were going really slow. I felt like Boba could have just flew over the speeder that the major domo was on and just land on it and game over, faster than waiting for these guys to stop it. So I don't know. That's just me. That took me out of it. The fight with Chrysanthemum was okay. I think I would have liked it better if it was still just them two, but I understand he's a big Wookiee and you probably can't take a Wookiee by yourself, especially not without your armor and your weapons. But and then that was another thing. It's like that whole conversation with the twins really just didn't make sense to me. We sent him to kill you, but now we're going to apologize for it. And here's a Rancor. That just seemed really rushed. And maybe that was the intent, and then that whole conversation with Danny Trejo and, training the Rancor and all that, like that whole conversation felt odd too. It felt like he was just telling Boba what he wanted to hear and that he's there to actually take him out. I don't know that, that last line he said when Boba was walking off and the Rancor kind of looks back and Danny Trejo, I can't remember his character's name. That's why I'm calling him Danny Trejo. He says, "Don't worry, he'll be back." Almost like, "Don't worry, you'll get your chance to kill him next time." So maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I just totally got the sense that he was a plant by the Hutts. And I think I've seen a couple people say that online, but not really much. So I don't know, that the whole thing just felt odd to me, the whole episode. Not only the weirdness of the chase scene, but just some of the conversations in there just didn't really make sense. So I'm, it was just weird. I'm glad it was a shorter episode in a sense. It was only 35 minutes or something like that, as opposed to chapter 4, which came out this week. Better, a lot better. We get to see more of Fennec Shand, and in that conversation I had mentioned on the Mandalorian podcast, that I was pretty sure that we were going to get that gap filled between finding her and up until when we see him on the Mandalorian. The question I had going after chapter 3, going into chapter 4 was, did all of the Tuskens get wiped out that were part of his tribe, or the tribe that he was a part of? Did they all get wiped out? Because I think, if I recall, that we saw the chief. He was laying there. Boba had the short stick / staff that the little kid had, but we didn't see the body or staff of the female Tusken that trained him. So my thought was that she wasn't there, or she escaped. My other theory was that I guessed that maybe she was the chief's daughter. I don't know if we're going to get that answer now, because it seems like he is no longer going to need the bacta tank anymore. He's fully healed, because that's the only time we got the flashbacks. So it seems like the flashbacks are over, which is unfortunate, because I think that was a strong part of the show. Maybe these last 3 episodes are going to fully ramp it up, which probably seems like that's where it's headed. It'll probably be great. But man, I wanted more of what happened, because I feel like the timeline now is a little in question for me. Was he by himself now then for 5 years before he found Fennec? Because he doesn't find Fennec until, Mandalorian season 1, which is 5 years after Return of the Jedi, which is 5 years after he gets out of the Sarlacc pit. So how long in those first 3 episodes, how much time is that? Because I wouldn't have guessed definitely, I don't think it's more than a year, but maybe it is. I feel like, he's in his white garment of his armor for the first 2 episodes until he gets, his clothes from the Tuskens. I feel like this first 2, that him wearing that same garment, I wouldn't think he'd be wearing that for a year. I feel like he'd be, I guess, maybe wearing it only for a few months. I guess 6 months. I guess up until the point where the tribe got wiped out, I thought it'd be about 6 to 7 months, but maybe longer. It seems like maybe it could have been a year, and then now he wandered around for 4 years. That is hard to believe, but maybe so, man. I don't know. That's really throwing me off right now. I really have to, and I love y'all's opinion on that, because I'm really struggling with that right now on how much time that is. Because I wish we would have seen, and then the other thing I wish we would have seen is the lead up to that shot of him seeing Mando on the speeder, because did he get wind of his armor? Like, he didn't find it in the Sarlacc pit, so he had to assume that it got, I guess he doesn't remember emerging with it on. He's got to get a sense of, or hear somebody talking about the marshal, at Mos Palos, I think that's what it is. And that he's wearing Mandalorian armor. Maybe he was on his way there, and that's when he saw Mando coming and had it. That's kind of what I'm guessing, but I wish we would have saw something like that, or he had got a lead like that, because it really just went from, saving Fennec, taking out the biker gang, they struggle with the Sarlacc pit, and then all of a sudden we're back, into the future again, I guess. Present time. So I feel like there were a couple things left to say back in the past. Whether or not all those Tuskens did die, and then, the time gap, I think, is still question for me. But again, I don't think it's going to get answered anymore. I think they're assuming that that's all that we need to know going forward. And now we're going forward, and he's going to, do his best to get rid of the Pikes. So I thought this episode was pretty good, a lot better than last week's chapter 3, but still not as good as chapter 2. I think chapter 2 is still kind of the better one. So, but it was pretty good. This chapter 4 was actually pretty good. Lots of Fennec. That's not a bad thing at all. Ming-Na Wen is fantastic. So, but overall, yeah, I thought overall it was a good episode. Good episode. So, for a more in-depth review, of course, Mandalore podcast comes out on Monday mornings. If you got feedback for that, send it in. You can send it in at the Mandalore podcast at gmail.com. We'll read it on the show. So go do that if you got some comments about chapter 4. Okay. Before I get into my best of 2021, just some publishing updates to know about. Of course, you got High Republic that kicked off in January with The Fallen Star, and which was the adult novel that came out from Claudia Gray. And now you've got the young adult novel Midnight Horizon dropping in February 1st. So a couple more weeks here, week and a half. And you'll get that. And then, of course, Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnson will be out April 5th. You got Brotherhood May the 10th, Shadow of the Sith June 28th still, and then Padawan July 26th, though. A lot more books will be announced, I'm sure. But those, so far, that's what the release date looks like right now. On the comic side, man, there's a lot of High Republic comics out there now. So January 26th, next week, you got the High Republic Trail of Shadows, number 4. Crimson Reign, the book I was talking to you about earlier about Kira and Crimson Dawn. Crimson Reign number 2 drops February 2nd. You got Halcyon Legacy number 1 dropping February 2nd, which is the comic series that's about the Star Cruiser that's at Galaxy's Edge. Will be at Galaxy's Edge in Disney World. That is about that ship you're on. The High Republic, number 14, February 2nd. Darth Vader, number 20, February 9th. You got Trail of Shadows, number 5, February 9th. Man, they are pumping them out every week. That's crazy. Another High Republic series that started called Eye of the Storm. This book is about Marchion Ro, which is the big bad of the Nihil in this time period. February 16th. So number 1's already come out. That came out January 12th. The High Republic, number 15, February 23rd. Star Wars, number 21, March 2nd. Halcyon Legacy, number 2, March 9th. And then I wanted to mention this again, Han Solo and Chewbacca, number 1. That comes out March 9th. So that series starts in March. Crimson Reign, number 3, is out on March 9th as well. So lots and lots of good comics coming out. Like I said, a lot of High Republic. You got the High Republic, the main series, and you got Trail of Shadows and Eye of the Storm out right now. Plus, you got the High Republic Adventure comics, which I don't really talk about on here because I don't read those, but that's out there as well. I'm assuming those are the books that are probably going to end because those are published by IDW. Because in March, we had talked about that Dark Horse is actually going to start publishing Star Wars comics again. And their first content is going to be centered around the High Republic. So I'm assuming those are going to be moved over to Dark Horse, which starts producing comics in March. So look for that. All right. Now, best of 2021. There's a lot of stuff that came out from Star Wars in 2021. I'll just run through some notable things. Obviously, the High Republic kicked off phase 1 in January of last year, so about a year ago. You You got Lucasfilm Games that was created. You've got the announcement again of Dark Horse. Excuse me. This year, or 2021, was the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. So that was a celebration there. Mandalorian obviously wrapped season 2 and won a bunch of Emmy awards. War of the Bounty Hunters, I talked about, the comic series, came out in 2021. Bad Batch debuted. Star Wars Visions debuted. Disney Plus put out a couple of behind the scenes stories, under the helmet of Boba Fett. A lot of their vintage stuff came out there. Terrifying Tales, Lego Star Wars came out. The Obi-Wan cast was announced. Boba Fett debuted. Book of Boba Fett debuted, obviously. Yeah. Tales of Galaxy's Edge. Last Call, which is part of the VR game that dropped. And then, of course, the announcement of the Star Cruiser. So a lot of crazy good stuff came out, 2021. But I got to say that I do think it was a little bit of a down year. Now, hear me out. A little bit down year just because, we're for one, I think we're starting to get a little spoiled because we've got all these shows that are coming that are on the docket and they haven't fully dropped yet. So I do think part of that is the reason, I'm thinking like that because I want all of these things. I want to see Andor. I want to see Obi-Wan. I want to see Ahsoka. I want to see the Acolyte. I want to see Lando, if that's thing going to still happen or not. I want to see these things, but I can't wait for them. So right now I'm just filling in my time with all these novels and comics and occasionally getting a show. So, and of course, no movie in sight. So we don't know when the next Star Wars movie is going to be coming out. That's a little bit of a frustration as well. Celebration has been redated twice now. So, there are some things moving. I get that. Time's a little tough right now, but I feel like we got a lot of publishing and not enough full content, even though, again, we got a whole season of Bad Batch. Mandalorian finally debuted, or Book of Boba Fett finally debuted. But, there was a lot of downtime as far as like visual content of Star Wars last year. So I think this year it's going to be completely different. I think we're going to get a lot of content. Video content is what I mean. Book of Boba Fett's going to wrap. Like I said, Obi-Wan hit another Bad Batch season. We got Andor, and then the Mandalorian debuts. I think that's incredible. The fact that we don't have a movie, I think that's easy to say that fills that gap. And then we got great books. We got good comics going on. So I think there's a lot going on this year, a lot more than last year. That's why I say that. But here are what I would say my top 3 favorite things about 2021. Coming in at number 3 is by far probably easily The High Republic. Took me a while to get into it because it debuted in January. I didn't start reading Light of the Jedi or listening to Light of the Jedi till probably, I don't know what it was, May, June. Probably halfway through the year, I dove into that book. And man, it was good. It does get you drawn into it. It does get you excited about these stories and these characters. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already, dive into Light of the Jedi. Charles Soule, easily one of my favorite writers, was obviously one of my favorite comic book writers, but definitely can still write novels like the best of them. And it was a really, really good book and a really, really good way to open up this new era. I'm in the middle of Into the Dark right now. Claudia Gray, fantastic author as well. And it's just continuing. The comic series is actually really good. So High Republic, and I feel like High Republic's been gaining more and more fans. I think if they get this game out, I think if they create some kind of live action series for it, I think it'll even ramp it up even more. So High Republic was a good thing last year. The second thing, to be honest, probably I'll say the Book of Boba Fett, even though it only debuted in 2021. But I'll count that as coming out in 2021. Obviously, the next live action show that we've been craving, that we've been desiring, and it's delivered so far, even though some rocky parts, but it's delivered so far. Just, Boba Fett's had been one of my favorite characters for a long time. Hands down, Yoda and Boba Fett are my two favorite characters. And to see him this way now, after all these years, I'm incredibly stoked. I never thought I would. Never thought we'd get this. I mean, I would have been okay if the Sarlacc was the end of the story, like he didn't come out of that thing. I would love to, again, get more stories of him during, the time between episodes 3 and 4. I think that's where we could have really got into Boba Fett. It would have been actually really cool to see a Boba Fett series during that time with Daniel Logan. I think that would be awesome. So maybe that's something we'll get, or at least have him show up in something, during that time. That would be cool. I think more stories of Boba Fett is not a bad thing for me. I think he's a great character. We're seeing the evolution of his character, and I'm all for it. Totally on board with it. So that was exciting. I couldn't wait to see this series and see more of him. So that was definitely number 2 on my list. But the number one thing that for me, in a way, that was the best of 2021 was by far the Bad Batch. I think that it's definitely done well. I think the fans have really resonated with it, but dare I say, I think it's still a little even underrated. I don't think it got as much praise as I think it should have. It's very good. I obviously have a big soft spot for that style of animation and the storytelling, because I really dove into the Clone Wars. Clone Wars captured me right away. As soon as it started, season 1, but then it obviously got better and better each season. And of course, I'm thrilled that they went back and finished some of it. I still don't think the Clone Wars was fully completed, with a lot of unaired episodes on the shelf still. So hopefully, I don't know if we'll ever see those, but hopefully those stories get published in something, which would be cool. I'd love, just like Dark Disciple, I'd love to get a novel of all the stories that didn't get, or comics that didn't get told in the animation side. But the Bad Batch very much feels like that. And it's so interesting where they're going with that. The whole mystery around Omega, and how the guys are going to be with her, and whether or not Boba Fett gets involved. I mean, I think he's going to be, but we'll see how. I just really enjoyed watching that series each week, and cannot wait for season 2. Cannot wait to see where it goes. Hopefully there's more animation series coming. I hope this is not the only one, but by far Bad Batch was my favorite of last year. I really, really enjoyed that. Big fan of Filoni, obviously, always have been. And I think his storytelling in the animation side is is the best. I don't think there's anybody else that can do it better. No one else I would, in a way, entrust to do Star Wars animation than him, by far. So, yeah, totally loved Bad Batch. That was my favorite of 2021. I think that season 2 of the Bad Batch is going to be even better when it debuts this year. So totally looking forward to that. Yeah, that's it. Best of 2021. That was my top 3 of all the things that I just named. Honorable mention was probably the announcement of the Galactic Star Cruiser. That is, cannot wait to figure out when I'm going to be able to get on that thing and experience that. That is going to be something else. I cannot wait for that. Okay. To wrap this thing up, I wanted to mention some of the recent comments on YouTube here from a couple people that I've grown fond of listening and replying to their comments. So let's see, on the last episode, 345, Thrown Attic says, really excited for the new Sith show. 100% here for that. Thank you. Can't wait to do it. Jojo Jar Jar says the same thing. Like I said in the beginning, just waiting to get Corey better and get this animation, this Sith holocron animation shirt up, and then we'll get that going. Let's see. Great show. Thrown Attic again. Great show. Good to see guests back on. Yeah, Corey was on with me that episode. Book of Boba Fett episode 2, definitely a lot better than episode 1. Need Han Solo to pop up would be great. That's the rumor. Han Solo apparently is going to show up at the end of this season, so we'll see that if that's true or not. Put out a couple of Beyond the Sagas the last couple weeks. We did the Ashes of Jeddah. Let's see. Thrawn also said, great review. Loved them going back to Jeddah to see the aftermath of Rogue One. That was pretty awesome. For me, Rogue One, apart from The Empire Strikes Back, is my favorite movie. Glad to see you both getting through the later issues of the series. Yeah, and I replied to you, Thrawn, saying that Rogue One is my favorite movie. I love a Rogue One. Now, I still think The Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie, but if I had to choose one to watch, I would pop in Rogue One, to be honest. I love Rogue One. It's gotten better and better, and I fall in love with it more and more each time I watch it. So yeah, good. Thanks for that. Also, Thrawn says, started listening to Mandalorian podcast for the Boba Fett reviews and am now hooked. Love the level of detail. Thank you. Yes, it is very detailed. We get into a long conversation. Sometimes it goes 3 hours long. To be honest, we were afraid that no one would listen to it. But people are still leaving feedback saying, whatever it is, I'm here to listen. So we're here to do it. That's great. Thank you for that. And then on the War of the Bounty Hunters video we put out, Jojo Jar Jar says, great having you two again. Love every single guest talking with you. Thanks for that. Hope the next one will connect to Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett more. There are so many possibilities. Totally agree. That would be fantastic. And then Jojo left a long, lengthy comment, not lengthy one, a bigger comment for the Mandalore podcast. So we'll read that on the Mandalore podcast, Jojo. And just remember, because they mentioned that Jojo mentioned he couldn't get on Apple Podcasts. So that's fine. So for everybody out there, if you want to leave feedback for the Mandalore podcast, it's the Mandalore podcast at gmail.com. Send Martin there, Cyber Ren there, an email, and that email, we'll read on the show and we'll react to it and comment to it. If you have any questions, just ask us in there and we'll talk about it there. So you can do that there. So thanks everybody for doing that. Glad you guys are listening on there. And we're going to cover, me and him are going to cover, in depth on all the shows that we can. I think we're going to do Bad Batch again, obviously. And we'll talk about Obi-Wan. It's all the Disney Plus ones we'll probably do on there. Obviously we didn't do, I wouldn't say all because we didn't do Visions. So it might not be all of them, but it will be most of them. And then, of course, I will talk about everything Star Wars on this show. Thanks for tuning in on Inside the Force. Again, youtube.com/Inside the Force. If you want to subscribe to the show, the video wise, we're on all the podcast platforms out there: Spotify, iHeart, Stitcher, Apple, Google, and you name it. You can subscribe there. We got a Facebook group if you want to join. Got to get more activity on there, get more people talking on there. But yeah, if you want to join, go to facebook.com and search Inside the Force. You'll find it there. Again, thanks for all the support. Here's to an upcoming great Star Wars year of 2022. We actually piggyback these episodes with this being a look back. And then the next episode next week, when I get on there, we'll talk about what's coming in 2022 and what I look forward to the most in 2022. If you've listened to this show just in the past couple months, you probably would guess what my number one thing is that I'm looking forward to in 2022 from Star Wars. But I'll talk more about it next week. Take care, everybody. Have a great, great weekend. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.